Hello again. I have a little bit different of a video today rather than something techie, which is what I would be doing most of the time. Something a little more personal, but really just something interesting to think about or talk about. Of course, we all know that Hurricane Ike hit Houston and did a lot of damage there, but what some of you may not know is that the remnants of that hurricane made their way all the way north to Ohio, where I live, Southwestern Ohio, around the Cincinnati area. And on Sunday last week, about a week and a half ago, 90% plus of the greater Cincinnati area lost power due to extreme wind damage. We had winds here that approached Category 1 hurricane speeds in the upper 70 mile per hour range. They didn't actually reach Category 1 hurricane, which is 80 miles per hour, but 76, 78 miles per hour, pretty darn close and pretty unexpected for Ohio. And according to the reports, the last time a hurricane made it this far inland and this far north was in 1900, when Galveston was literally destroyed, and that hurricane killed sailors on Lake Erie. So obviously this is a once-in-a-lifetime event, and while I'm not trying to say that what happened here was anywhere close to what happened in Houston, where the damage was significantly worse, it was one of the worst windstorms that has ever gone through the area, and obviously caused a lot of problems if it knocked out 90% of the power, which was mostly due to trees down and that sort of thing hitting power lines and power stations. Anyway, most of the region lost power sometimes Sunday afternoon. Where I live, we specifically lost it around 3 o'clock on Sunday. And at that point, obviously we knew there'd been a windstorm. We were watching it outside, but nobody really knew exactly what was going on. We didn't know how long to expect to be without power. And eventually, when it got to be dark, I got out my little cassette player slash radio and tuned into one of the local news stations, and was finally hearing what was going on, and they had representatives from the energy company on saying that it would be a week before all power was restored. And again, I'm not trying to say what happened here was close to what happened in Houston. I know in Houston they're still working on getting power back there, and it's been over a week and a half, but it was a big deal for around here. Anyway, a lot of places were closed, obviously, because they didn't have power, and most of the homes were without power. So people were calling in and saying, oh, this restaurant has power, or this store has power, and you can go get things you need. And of course, the immediate concerns were things like the food in the freezer and fridges, and lots of grocery stores ended up throwing away or giving away a significant amount of their cold items. And of course, people with medical conditions who need electricity to run their medical equipment. But as time went on, the estimates of when power would come back, sort of varied. Most people, they said, would have power back by Wednesday, and then of course after that, people with individual problems would experience longer outages, if the line broke specifically from the pole to your house. Anyway, where I live, we were very, very lucky, and we got power back Monday around noon, so that was less than 24 hours, and they did not actually complete the major restoration from the windstorm until yesterday, Tuesday. They finally announced that everything was finished from the windstorm, and whatever outages were going on then were just random whatevers, like squirrels getting into substations, that sort of thing. Anyway, as time dragged on and people were without power for longer, I had contact with other people around and nearby cities that didn't have power yet, and it was really interesting. One person that I talked to said that people were just going nuts. They didn't know what to do, they didn't know what to eat, they didn't know how to drive without stoplights, which of course around here anyway are a four-way stop. There's no dominant streets, but there were traffic accidents all over, and there wasn't rioting or looting or like mass panic, but just individually people were very confused about what to do with themselves, and I was a little bit too. But as Monday rolled around, it became more of a concern because I work on an internet-based business, and with no power, obviously I have no computer, and therefore no way to get on and do my business. And of even bigger concern, we have some servers in a nearby town that was also affected by the power outage. And so Monday, I spent most of the day fielding phone calls from a variety of different clients about why this was down, or why that was down, or why that wasn't working. And with clients all over the country, some of them knew what had happened, some of them did not. everybody was fairly sympathetic. When you say hurricane in Ohio, people kind of go, oh, wow, I wouldn't have expected that. Well, neither did we. Fortunately, by Monday, about 7 o'clock, the power was restored where the servers are located, and we were back online, at which point, obviously the worst of it was over for me because I had the power back at my house and on the servers, and business was back to normal, other than I had spent practically the entire day on the phone. First month I've actually gone over on my cell phone minutes. Thank you, AT&T, for rollover. Anyway, it is an interesting question. I got to thinking, what if there were some larger disaster? And I certainly hope that this never happens, and I would never wish it upon anyone. But I was thinking, what if there was no power for a month? There would be no way for me, at least immediately, with my current business arrangements, to make money. I would have no income. Without the websites that are out there, there would be nobody purchasing anything, so there would be no income. I don't know what I would do in terms of getting another job, or how long I would wait, or when the contingency plans would go into effect when I try to relocate things. And that's aside from all of the personal things. Obviously we have canned food, and that would last for a while. But it's just kind of horrifying to think about everything that depends on electricity. We depend on electricity for our personal lives. We have our homes with all of our gadgets and TVs and the refrigerators and the freezers, obviously, that keep our food, in the grocery stores that we take for granted that we can go to and buy whatever we want anytime, and it's never a problem. Well, suddenly the grocery stores were closed, and when they did open, there were a lot of items missing. And I know that in other places like Houston, that's magnified even worse, where the power was out longer, and they had even more trouble replenishing the stocks. Even a week later here, a week after the power was on, there were still things that weren't available just because they had not been able to get resupplied, or the supplies were low enough everybody had bought everything. So there's that, and then there's the business side. If you think about any sort of region-wide power outage, I remember when New York to Cleveland a few years ago, probably 5 years ago or more now, lost power during the summer, and New York City shut down. I just can't help but think about all the lost business revenue, and the effect on the economy was probably minimal for one day, but what if that was weeks? It's just kind of scary to think about, and I wonder what would really happen if tomorrow the power went out and it was at least a month until it came back. What would people do? What would people do to survive? How would people react? What would people do for business? Without electricity, I think virtually most of the workforce would be out of a job. There's some professions, obviously, like painters, that could probably do pretty well during the daytime anyway, but with the reliance on electricity, most people's job really depends on it one way or another. So it would be interesting. I hope that we never have to find out. But if you have any reactions to that, or thoughts about what would happen, or what you would do in that event that the power was gone for a long time, I just think it's an interesting thing to think about. Obviously personal safety first and all that stuff, but I think after a little while we would start to get restless about our jobs, and what we would do and how we would make money. What would we do with banks and getting cash? Without credit cards, I don't have much money in terms of, like, in my wallet. I use cards for most things, credit, debit cards. If I couldn't go to the bank and get money, it might be difficult to buy things. It all cascades. It's all really quite terrifying. Obviously, try not to let that affect your everyday living, but again, it is an interesting thought. So anyway, I just thought I would share that experience. It certainly got me thinking about a lot of different things, and about our reliance on electricity and how much we take it for granted, and that really it could be gone, and it would dramatically affect our lives in practically every facet of our lives. So if you have any comments, I'd love responses, text responses, video responses. I'm sure I'm not the first person to ask this question, but maybe one of the first to ask it about hurricanes in Ohio. And who knows what sort of freakish things might come our way next in terms of weather. You just never know. We really are not the masters of this planet. So anyway, I will talk to you later, and thanks for watching.